welcome. Welcome to Occam's Razor. This is the nap. You've come to take your nap, the no answer period. Thank you very much for coming. If you are here, if you're watching on Rumble, which is this primarily Rumble channel, please give us a thumbs up and a follow. We do not have any subscribers yet. That would be nice. If you're following us on YouTube, come on over to Rumble. You can give us a like there as well, but Rumble is our primary channel. Right, so the House of Commons sits on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock, which is why in the past, during the prior Liberal government session, not the new, there's no new government. It's the same government that's been in power for 10 years, same party. Previous Prime Minister made it a habit to show up on Wednesdays. April the 5th, I guess. That's when Parliament started during the day, right at 2 o'clock. Just to show up, I guess that's the thing that he wanted to do. We will not be seeing Prime Minister Carney there today. In fact, we saw him answer two questions on Monday and then he ran. So I doubt we will be seeing him again. Now, before we get into the House of Commons this afternoon at 2 o'clock, which will be coming up in about 25 minutes, there's a series of things that Canadians should probably be aware of that connect specifically to the politics that have been running this country. First off, how about we look at this? Did I bring this up yet? No? I wanted to. Oh, I didn't put it in. Let's go straight to what Mario Zelaya has been saying here. This is rather interesting, and this gears straight into what has been happening here in Canada with the economic destruction. And it's not just enough for the voices of all the Canadians that are not being listened to say something. No, now apparently there's a list of 96 CEOs have signed an open letter to Carney because he's ruining the country. Let's hear what Mario has to say.
Term investments necessary.
Bring that back up to the
This
beginning.
is probably the scariest open letter I've ever seen written to a prime minister. And originally I thought it was fake, and I looked it up, I pulled it up, and it's 100% legit. Watch this. Unfortunately, the picture cut it off, but this is on the Enbridge website, and it's called Build Canada Now, an open letter to the Prime Minister of Canada. And it literally starts off by saying that the national economy is moving in the wrong direction and Canadians deserve prosperity, not uncertainty. And this is where it gets crazy. They literally spelled out a plan for Mark Carney on what they call urgent action that is needed now. And they outline everything from simplify regulations, commit to firm deadlines, grow production, attract investment, and incent Indigenous co-investment opportunities. Just wait until the end, you will see how many CEOs have signed this letter. It wasn't just one. But they say this is a call to action that is urgent and that there's persistent indicators that Canada is moving in the wrong direction. We need to improve productivity to create jobs, and it requires swift and decisive action. In other words, not taking the summer off like they did. And I'll refer to this as CEO speak. That is basically a backhand. Given your background, that's him being in investment banking, being at Brookfield, being in Goldman Sachs, and being the Governor General for the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, you understand that the private sector and public markets require clarity and certainty to make long-term investments necessary to realizing this sector's potential. They're basically telling him, you know this, you know better, you have not taken decisive action. And these are all the signatures. These are some of the biggest companies in Canada, and it literally goes on and on and on. No matter how fast I scrolled, the list just kept growing bigger and bigger. This to me is the canary in the coal mine moment, where you have some of the biggest leaders, not just in Canada, but in the world telling you, we're headed in the wrong direction, you know better, we need to take swift and urgent action now. They even laid out a plan of what the government needs to do. Did you notice in that plan, they didn't mention government subsidies? There was nothing about free money from the government, from our tax dollars. Look at what their top two asks are. Simplify regulations. Get rid of the red tape. Commit to firm deadlines. Do your job on time. Then once you have that, you will grow production, will attract more investment, and let's get the Indigenous First Nations people to co-invest in these opportunities. They just gave the Liberal Party a blueprint I've honestly, in my life, have never seen anything like this. With this amount of unconditional support, unreal.
We have never seen anything like this before because Canada's economy has never been so dire. Look at this. Look at this down here, right? All this from 2015. Look at this, 2015. Our economy has continued to shuffle down, but it hasn't gotten any better, that's for sure. Nothing but misery. And meanwhile, everybody can say, oh, it's global forces, it's global forces. Really? Then America's economy has bounced back after the election. It was falling under Biden, it was falling under us. And then, of course, um, the Canadians are tricked again. And then they inject a bunch of money into the economy and they bring in massive amounts of newcomers into Canada to falsely increase the GDP, and then they keep up the amount of people coming in. The problem is here, from as soon as the COVIDity stupidity hit, everybody started to leave and take their money with them. When they take their money with them, they take their jobs with them, and they take their companies with them, and then those jobs leave, and then the only thing left behind is the government spending money, your money, printing money to try to keep the economy going. And eventually, they just ran out of time just before the election. They still had a little bit time left, but people weren't listening. They were all too worried about Orange Man bad, not looking at the amount of tanking that the Liberals have done to the economy and that they will continue to do as they continue to do things for themselves and not for their constituents. Speaking of doing things for themselves or not doing things properly, here we have Stephanie Kuzi, a CPC member, and here she is in committee. Have a listen.
The contract resources had the Liberal government still needs to tighten up in terms of their procurement, where we learned from the Auditor General that in her samples, 21% of the samples lacked security clearances. In 33% of contracts examined, federal organizations could not show the contract resources, had the experience, qualifications needed to complete the work. In 58% of the non-competitive contracts examined, federal organizations failed to assess whether there would be benefits to calling for bids. Only 54% of contracts examined were situations where the federal departments could prove that their deliverables were even received, Mr. Chair. So we have a long way to go.
Do you imagine that? 54% of the money that these departments spent can't even prove that they got what they purchased. Um, how is that responsible finance? This has been allowed to continue far too long. Far too long. You know, when I was in the Royal Canadian Air Force, I had to do I had to deal with these finances as well. I had to deal with the same program that these public servants use. And there are authorization signatures for everything required for purchasing at the different levels for different amounts, right? And it's up to the department heads themselves from the money that they've gotten from their budget to ensure that that money is being spent well. But if you have department heads that just don't care and are pocketing it themselves, I'm not saying that. Allegedly, there's a lot of money being spent, and not allegedly, there's no receipts. Interesting. Carry on, Stephanie.
And the final piece in regards to this report is, Mr. Chair, we never determined who chose GC strategies. We never got to the bottom of that, Mr. Chair.
what they do, and I just realized I've been talking again without the bloody mic on. I got to get better at this. Well, it's a good thing. You guys are just hearing me rant about the SAP anyway. Let's move on to the next story. Blacklock's reporter. So they have stated, fact protesters ransacked office buildings. We have confirmation no such incident occurred. So this goes back to the Freedom Party. Bill Blair lied. Bill Blair, safety minister at the time, lied. We all knew he lied. We could see all the live feeds coming in at the time for those 3 weeks during the freedom protest. We knew that they were lying. Mr. Bill Blair said protesters' largely foreign funded claim was untrue. Well, we know it was untrue because when they were funded online, less than 10% of the funding came from American donors south of the states, and those are small little donations, not really large donations. And then after 10 million was raised in a couple of days, the liberals seized it. So then they went to a different platform, raised another $10 million, and then the liberals seized that too, and they were panicking because the liberals can't even raise $10 million in donations in a year, let alone a couple of days. And here was a group of protesters doing it that quick. Oh, they had to start fast. They had to do some quick propaganda to destroy these people and their narrative. And they did it this way. The department said female pedestrians threatened with rape by protesters. Access to info records prove claims were invented by managers. Invented by managers. I wonder if it's the same bloody managers that don't do any lack of proof or qualifications when they order stuff for the department, or when they do 58% of no bid contracts, single source contracts, right? 54% approved liberals were they even received? We don't know. There's no receipts. How do you run a business like that? How do you run a government like that? There is just no accountability. Such lies. Always the lies. And here we are back at the house. Still another 11 minutes to go. Some other disturbing news has come out this week. But then again, this is the kind of thing that I follow. Get the right one right here. So one of the primary purposes of this channel was to ensure that people could be informed and repeatedly informed about the vaccine injuries and damage done to Canadians and how this government has yet to be held to account. Information keeps coming out every single day about new studies, new peer-reviewed papers about the damage that can be done with messenger RNA gene therapy rebranded as a vaccine. Now here we have yet another discovery that we knew. Now you have to remember that Health Canada admitted, well, first they denied there was DNA contamination in the COVID-19 vaccines. They denied, oh no, the vaccines are safe and effective. There's no contamination, nothing to worry about. Then they came back and they say after vials had to be basically absconded with and then tested and proven, and they proved to them, oh look, hey, you've got DNA contamination, SV40, simian virus 40 contamination in there. And then Health Canada came back and said, "Oh yeah, sorry about that. Our bad that we gave you a fraudulent vaccine. There's a little bit of DNA contamination. Don't worry about it. There's the likelihood of SV40 being a cancer promoter is very, very minimal, and that might be true. That might be true. That might be true. You know, I don't know. It might be true because it's not. I don't even know what I was saying. Just listen to the doctor."
Warm welcome to this talk. Now, in this talk, we'll be giving conclusive evidence of very high levels of DNA contamination in the mRNA vaccines. Why does this matter? Why does DNA contamination in messenger RNA vaccines matter?
Okay, before he says that, before messenger RNA vaccines, it was known that there would be SV40 contamination in some vaccines, right? And it's a known cancer promoter. What they don't tell you is that in the prior vaccines, you might have 40 to 60 broken strands of simian virus 40 DNA, 40 to 60 in the entire injection. Very, very tiny, right? We're talking 10 to 30 million in a messenger RNA injection. And all of these are going to be traveled through your body by using lipid nanoparticles, LNPs, which is what he's going to talk about.
Well, it matters because that DNA gets into the cells. The lipid nanoparticles in the vaccines take it into the cells. From the cells, it can hang around in the cytosol of the cell, the cytoplasm of the cell, and it can also get into the nucleus of the cell, which of course has the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, the very recipe of our lives. And it can contaminate that. Now, if it gets into our own DNA, that changes the nature of our DNA, and that is a mutation, and that's how we get cancers. And there's other mechanisms by which cancers can be caused as well. So this is giving overwhelming proof of DNA contamination, and that DNA contamination is probably going to lead to cancers in the future. That's why this matters. Now, I've just got off a video call with David, and he said that there's already people trying to get this paper retracted, but as of now, it's in print. But it has been submitted to Senator Johnson for the US congressional hearings. So it's actually in the record, even if the opposition do manage to get it taken down. This is the paper here. Quantification of the residual plasmid DNA.
So I suggest you go see Dr. John Campbell yourself, watch the entire video. He's been doing fantastic work. He was one of the guys that was pro jibby jab from the onset. And then he learned rather quickly that he had done the wrong decision, and he has been working as best he can without getting canceled on YouTube. And he's been very good at that, without getting canceled on YouTube, by trying to expose all the stuff that has been going on related to the COVID-19 vaccine. All right. We do have something else to watch. We have another 6 minutes before the House sits and question period starts. Let me get this back up again. Now, Moose on a Loose has a wonderful channel, and he's been working on a chart. He said there were links to his chart in his comments, and I've been checking there, and I haven't been able to find the chart, but apparently it's at www.moosecheck.ca and .com. He set up a lot of mirrored sites where he has a massive no, not web page, chart graph set up. He's got this chart, and it charts all the stuff that's connected to Carney and his liberal friends, and where all the money is going in the back rooms and the back doors. Great piece of journalism. But here, I'd like you to watch this because this is rather interesting, and it relates. It relates to what I was saying yesterday about mass immigration. And right from the very beginning, when you look at our chart, we were talking about how immigration was being manipulated to give us false results on the GDP, while those chickens are coming home to roost.
Here, here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the number one cost for Canadians is their housing, and we have taken action to make housing more affordable. Yesterday,
he just asked about food prices, and you got this buffoon, Gregor Robertson, sleazeball McGee here talking about housing. Like, come on.
Prime Minister and I announced the launch of Build Canada Homes, which will be a one-stop shop for making housing more affordable across Canada. And we're launching that on 6 pieces of Canada lands, 4,000 homes that we will start building immediately. Thank you.
Okay, let's do some math here. So their announcement was to build 4,000 homes really quickly. And I see a lot of people on the right on Twitter doing this math where if you got 13.5 billion, 4,000 homes, it works out to be $3 million per house. They actually announced $25 billion earlier, so that math doesn't quite add up like that. But regardless, so what we have here, I've showed this before, Canada's population clock. This is a real-time counter of our population. And right now, the Liberals have been bringing in a lot of people this year. They're already surpassing their targets. We've got roughly around 1,148 people per day coming in as permanent residents, 828 per day student permits. TFW TFWs are 581 and 1,671 for the mobility work program. Putting that for the first half of the year, that's 207,000 permanent residents, 149,000 for study permits, 105,000 for TFWs, and 302,000 for the mobility program. Well, what does that work out to be per day? That's 4,200 people per day that are coming into Canada. So them announcing 4,000 new homes is going to change everything. It won't change anything. That's one day's worth of people coming into Canada. And sure, not all of those people are going to stay, but even if you say half or even a third, so what, 3 days worth of people coming into Canada, you've got homes for now with this huge program, multi-billion-dollar program. The system.
Yes, this system is absolutely insane, and it is geared towards making only certain people rich. Only certain people rich. And it ain't the taxpayer. Not at all. All right. Are we still listening to music? Yes, we are. Let's do a quick refresh on the page and make sure they haven't snuck in. Yeah, we'll just give that a calm. So Carney has left the country. He's going off glad-handing with other people once again. And you'll notice that one of the reasons that our economy has been shooting down and the American economy has been shooting up, one of the primary reasons is because we have been going out of our way through liberal intervention to separate ourselves from our largest trading partner. So let us get this straight. They increase the population by 37%. They destroy the economy and they drive people out. People leave and they take their wealth with them, and so do the businesses, further collapsing the tax base in the industry. Bringing in a bunch of people and then giving them more benefits. All these new immigrants getting 2 years worth of benefits, far more than their own tax-paying seniors who've paid their entire life to live in this country. And then you change the laws to ensure that nothing but crime and corruption is the normal and that people lose confidence in the government. So you decrease the ability of society. So you're crushing society even more. You're making it even worthless. Of course, now you've saturated the country with massive immigration. So all the social systems that are there to support people, every level, municipal, provincial, and federal, they're all overtaxed and nobody can get anything. Further demoralizing people, further driving people out of the country, further wanting people not to invest in this country. So one of the greatest factors of our downfall of our economy under the Liberals, especially since Mr. Carney has come in, is that he has done everything to enrich himself and his G-fans, his global financial alternative for whatever it was carbon capture, climate change, all these failed narratives, because that's what they're gearing to, because that's what his investment portfolio is geared to. Every single policy. Now, when you ask questions of a liberal, you have to be a psychopath to ensure that you answer like a liberal, right? We've seen this for 3 days straight. They've been trying to ask questions about food. Just if people yesterday, like just asking questions about food. What are you going to do? People are starving. Oh, we've cut taxes. Oh, we're going to give you 4,000 homes at $2.5 million each, which are shacks off Iraq. Oh, we've got trade deals on the way. Oh, and then let's announce something that's already being built. You're not fooling anybody. Now, a lot of people don't like to cover the non-answer period. Nobody likes to have the nap because it gets aggravating. It gets aggravating after a while watching these clowns not answer the questions and not being held to account. Well, that's why I think it is important. It is important to show them on TV, on screen, on phones, wherever you're watching your social media. It's important to expose them for what they are. Because every time somebody who wants to vote liberal does, and you ask them why could you? And then they won't get into the details. They won't get into the specifics. They won't even watch question period. And even if you manage to watch them at Q, they will just stay silent. They have to hold on to their cognitive dissonance because they have nothing else. Once you believe a lie, you have to keep that lie wrapped in more lies in order to make that lie work for you. And then eventually you start losing track of what the truth is. You only want to believe the lie. In fact, if you hear the truth, you think it's a lie because it's affecting your own cognitive dissonance. It's changing the fake reality that you created around you. And when somebody threatens that, how does a leftist usually act? They usually go on the attack. They will call you a name. They will dismiss you. They will feign uh, being offended. Or in the worst cases, you will have a Charlie Kirk. Why is that? And then when they did have the Charlie Kirk, what happened to the so-called far right? Right, there was my camera. There, far right. Yeah. What did they do? They had vigils. They didn't go on a burning spree like they did for George Floyd. They didn't go looting. They didn't go and chant and hold massive parades, screaming at people, calling for death. They did have a couple of big parades, but they would have been peaceful had the police not been sent in there by their own far left governments to stir up. And we're talking, of course, of the massive, disputed numbers, by the way, of the massive rally that happened last weekend that Tommy Robinson held. Oh, this live stream has ended. What's going on? Does this mean we are about to start? Well, it is past 2 o'clock. Let's go check out the Parle View. Apparently, the House is sitting.
Cancer. I offer sincerest condolences to his wife,
Oh, the
Jane,
House is sitting.
his son, Donald, and the numerous extended family members and close friends whose lives will never be the same without him.
Oh, I see what's going on.
Paul, you have left the world a better place. May your final ride be easy, and may the road stretch far and wide.
The Honourable Member for Elgin St Thomas, London South.
September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, the time to honor children and their families facing cancer. MPs today are wearing gold pins to emphasize the importance of awareness, hope, and research for childhood cancer, the leading cause of death by disease for Canadian children. Dave and Maureen Jenkins from Belmont, Ontario, provided these pins in memory of their daughter, Maggie, who passed away at just 12 years old. I'm grateful for ChildCan in London, an invaluable resource for families across southwestern Ontario grappling with childhood cancer, whether it's to lend a supportive ear or cover unexpected expenses. I'd like to recognize Tammy Bell here on the Hill today. She founded the Golden Society and has raised over $725,000 for CHEO and cancer research in memory of her brave son Griffin, whom she lost to cancer last year at age 6. At 7 p.m. this evening, Parliament Hill will shine gold for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I hope all members will join me in honoring the courageous children and their families affected by childhood cancer. Thank you.
That's very nice.
Iqbal Chima, a true pioneer of Pakistani and Muslim communities in BC. Born in Faisalabad, Mr. Chima arrived in Canada in 1972 with
So Andrew Lawton standing up there earlier, it's just wonderful to see him in Parliament. I worked briefly for Andrew when he had a publication. Many years ago was this. Let's think back here. Just come back from Canada. Yeah, so about 14 years ago. It was called Landmark Report, and I believe that's probably where some of the seed people got started for True North and now Juno News. And of course, at the time I was in the armed forces, so I had to write under a pseudonym. And then after I forget if it was before my deployment or after my deployment. A few of us got together and we hung out for an afternoon and shared some bread. And there was some bloggers of us at the time. Andrew was there, Moose and Squirrel back there, now defunct site, and another blogger was there. Her husband was working in the UK at the time, and she had some interesting insights into the EDL that was occurring at the time as well, because she actually had been over to UK and seen them. And of course, here we are so many years later, and I was right about my assumption back then about Tommy Robinson as I am today, is that he was doing good work. Let's see what this member from Alberta is saying.
That undermines global aviation safety and frankly makes a mockery of ICAO's stated mission. It's time for ICAO to stop placating the Beijing dictatorship, put global aviation safety first, and invite Taiwan to participate at the assembly.
L'honorable député d'Alfred Pellan.
Monsieur le Président, cet été, j'ai rencontré des compagnies et citoyens d'Alfred Pellan, inquiets des effets des tarifs américains sur notre économie. En cette rentrée parlementaire, je tiens à les rassurer que leurs commentaires ont bien été entendus par notre gouvernement. Grâce à notre nouvelle stratégie industrielle, nous allons diversifier nos marchés, soutenir nos PME et miser sur la requalification de nos travailleurs pour bâtir une économie canadienne plus forte, résiliente et compétitive. En matière d'infrastructure, le Bureau des grands projets jouera un rôle essentiel pour accélérer les investissements à travers le pays. Des projets majeurs tels que le terminal de Contrecœur ou la mise en œuvre rapide du train à grande vitesse Alto seront multipliés et créeront des milliers d'emplois. À Alfred Pellan, comme partout au Canada, notre gouvernement offrira des solutions concrètes, rapides et ambitieuses. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, this year in Wellington County, the township of Puslinch celebrates its 175th anniversary. Older than Confederation, Puslinch was established in the province of Canada in 1850 under the Municipal Corporations Act of 1849 that had been introduced by the great ministry of Robert Baldwin and Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine. Named after a place in England, the township is filled with history from early pioneers, the English, Highland Scots, Germans, and Irish Catholics. The township played a key role in early Canadian agriculture, with Dr. Frederick Strone bringing to Puslinch the first Hereford cattle breed and other cattle breeds. His farm eventually became the Ontario Agricultural College and the University of Guelph. Congratulations to Mayor Seeley and Township Council for continuing the 175-year tradition of local democratic governance.
The honourable member for London West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we open this new session, I want to welcome my colleagues back to the House of Commons. We are here because Canadians expect us to get things done. For me, that means delivering for the people of London West. Londoners are very clear. They want affordable housing, they want good jobs, they want support for their families, and that's why I welcome the new housing investments that will speed up construction, bring down costs, and put young people and skilled workers on the job. With the new work relief measures, we're making sure that families have the help that they need right now through the tough times. We're also seeing major CAF investment. That means stable and long-term jobs for Canadians while strengthening our economy and protecting our country, Mr. Speaker. London is at the center of growth in southwestern Ontario, and my focus is to make sure that Ottawa continues to match that ambition by investing in people, industries, and the future that all Canadians want. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister once said Canadians would judge him by the cost of groceries. Well, beef is up 33%, coffee is up 22%, and sugar is up by 20%. Food inflation has risen by 40%. Canadians in Vaughan Woodbridge and across this country feel the pinch every single time they walk into the grocery store. A new report shows that over 25% of households are struggling to afford food. That's up from 18% in 2023. At Toronto's Food Bank, nearly 4 decades to reach 1 million visits. Yet, in only 3 years, demand has quadrupled to 4 million visits. And get this, the poverty rate has climbed for the 3rd straight year, now sitting at 9.9%, increasing by 38%.
So we are going to hear that again today in Parliament for sure. There's going to be plenty of questions why Canadians are starving after 10 years of liberal Romeo Alpha Papa Echo of Canadian economies, right? So I was talking about the spreadsheet that David has here on Moose and Loose. Have a look. Oh, no sound.
Danielle Smith was being optimistic with working with Mark Carney. She's trying to get something going, and now they're trying to split conservatives and using Danielle Smith against Pierre Poilievre. These are dirty tactics. It's not going to last, though. If there's nothing comes to fruition here quickly by Grey Cup by November, then Danielle Smith is be like, okay, you guys are not working for Alberta. You're going to see the separatist movement just start grow further. She's going to say Trudeau didn't work for the people of Alberta, and now Mark Carney's not working for the people of Alberta. This is a limited time offer here for the Liberals here. They basically have a month and a half, 2 months where they can try to milk this situation, because once that second tranche of projects come down, there better be a pipeline in there or this dog and pony show is over. Got this one here. Carney does not need to divest assets to avoid conflicts of interest, ethics watchdog says. No, not at all. This is a complete joke. So he's got his two gangsters here, basically his henchmen at the door. We go to my chart here. I should note too, this chart is getting slammed by too many people, so I may have to duplicate this 10 times and have 10 different mirrored links, so all of you can jump on here, but it's on moosechart.com and moosechart.ca. There's also a third link in the description. You might want to check that one out, which is already a mirror. Regardless, here's his two henchmen, Michael Sabia, clerk of the Privy Council, and Marc-Andre Blanchard, his chief of staff. These guys are supposed to protect Mark Carney against all these conflicts. Now, technically, Michael Sabia is Mark Carney's ethics screen, and I know I said a while ago I'm going to make a video on him. I'm still going to make a video on him, breaking it down who this guy is, but he's supposed to protect Mark Carney. Unfortunately, if you've seen this video here, we can follow this line, which goes all the way up to the CDPQ, Caisse de Dupont, Place de Quebec. That guy, while he was working here, did a deal here with Mark Carney. Right here, Brookfield raises $2.4 billion catalytic transition fund. If we follow it all the way over here to the UAE section of my chart here, we've got that fund, and there it is, Caisse de Dupont. Mark Carney did this deal with Michael Sabia. These guys are good buddies. Now he's his ethics screen. This is highly corrupt. So if that's our starting point, then you got articles like this saying that no need to divest assets. No problem at all. We got conservative John Brassard here and Michael Barrett absolutely hammering him on this because this is ridiculous.
When these the screens are set up, wouldn't that cause a reasonable person to conclude that the public office holder is in fact benefiting from those deferred stock options, units, and future bonuses, despite the fact that the blind trust is being set up? Now, if that public officer holder, for example, was a prime minister whose major policy platforms were, for example, housing, infrastructure, EV mandates, and all that stuff, wouldn't that cause a reasonable person to conclude that they are in fact benefiting, blind trusts notwithstanding, screens notwithstanding?
So I'm going to show you here soon. Mark Carney's already made millions of dollars on his stocks because of being PM.
That they are in fact benefiting as a result of the decisions that are being made, major policy decisions in this country. Wouldn't that cause a reasonable thinking person to conclude that there is in fact a conflict and that person is in fact benefiting as a result of these decisions?
Well, you have just enunciated the major argument why people don't like the idea of apparent conflict of interest, because it is possible to view things that way or other way. You can also put it the other way around, saying he's earned those deferred benefits already. He's getting them in the future. He's getting them from one of the largest companies in the country. So how can you personally be, where is the conflict of interest? There is no way that the decision will have an impact on the deferred money that he's getting in the future.
Oh, yeah.
just enunciated the major argument why people don't like the idea of apparent conflict of interest, because it is possible to view things that way or other way. You can also put it the other way around, saying he has earned those deferred benefits already. He's getting them in the future. He's getting them from one of the largest companies in the country. So how can you personally be, where is the conflict of interest? There is no way that the decision will have an impact on the deferred. Money that he's getting in the future.
This guy's out to lunch because this is a simple math equation. I'm on the SEC.gov here in America. We put in Mark Carney. There we go. So Mark Carney. So here's his 2 shares. He's got 209,000 shares at a strike price, $35, 200,000 shares, $40. This is back from December 2024. You can see there the value in US dollars, 6.8 million, which is what I've got on my board here. If we look at Brookfield's stock price here, you can see it's continually gone up. Now, this is for the last 5 years. We'll just put in the last year. Mark Carney won the election rate there, $53 US. And where is it now? It's at $69. We also have Brookfield Asset Management because these are multiple different companies. When we look when Mark Carney won the Liberal leadership race is right here. So March 9th, and it was $47. Today it's $57. That's a 21% increase in the stock. And Brookfield Corporation has gone up 33%. Mark Carney has made $1.4 million increase just becoming prime minister on Brookfield Asset Management stocks. And we don't know how many stocks he owns in Brookfield Corporation, which we can see right here. So just imagine if he had $10 million in this, then he'd have nearly $14 million. It'd be an increase of $4 million plus the 1.5. He'd be up like $6 million. Now, if he's got 20 or 40 or $50 million, then he's made $20+ million just in the 6 months being prime minister. This has a huge effect on his net worth, and that's just these 2 stocks. Think about these other assets here that are benefiting from him becoming prime minister. This is ridiculous. Michael Barrett knows that he's calling him out. Listen to this. The ethics commissioner trying to justify this.
Mandatory
C'est quoi l'ampleur du déficit libéral?
Tout d'abord, je voudrais
faire accueillir à des nouveaux pages ici au Parlement pour tous les membres. Il y aura un nouveau budget du gouvernement le 4 novembre et ce sera un budget d'investissement, le plus grand investissement d'une génération pour le Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country's future in a generation. Building homes, building new port infrastructure, new trade corridors, new energy infrastructure, building the strongest economy in the G7.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Normalement, le gouvernement présente le déficit au début de l'année fiscale. Maintenant, ça fait 6 mois et on ne sait pas encore la grandeur du déficit. L'incertitude a expulsé 50 milliards de dollars d'investissement et tué 86 000 emplois. C'est la première fois dans l'histoire du pays qu'un premier ministre ne peut pas dire le déficit 6 mois après le début de l'année fiscale. Il se dit être un grand expert fiscal. Donc, est-ce qu'il connaît la grandeur de son déficit? Oui ou non?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Merci pour le compliment. Oui, je suis un grand expert fiscal, budgétaire. Oui, oui, je suis un grand économiste. Merci, monsieur. Et je sais que la situation actuelle économique ici au Canada, l'ampleur de l'incertitude, c'est la guerre tarifaire. Et il faut contrôler ce que nous pouvons contrôler. Ça, c'est l'investissement.
Exactement. Bravo.
Du Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, surely, if he was such an expert, he would know the size of his own deficit. It's now halfway through the fiscal year. 6 months have gone by, and he has announced $40 billion of additional spending. Deficits drive up inflation, grocery prices, housing costs, and interest rates. They drive out investment from our country and uncertainty that destabilizes our economy. That's why every other Prime Minister in Canadian history has announced the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. We're 6 months in. Does he even know the size of his own deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know many things. I know many things. And one of the things I know, the member opposite, the Leader of the Opposition, just mentioned interest rates. One thing I know is that Canadian interest rates are much lower than American interest rates. They're lower because this country's fiscal situation is strong, because this government has a plan to grow this economy, and we will keep doing it. We'll keep it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the collapsing economy is bringing down interest rates, but the financial expert doesn't even know what his own deficit is. But another financial expert spoke yesterday. The parliamentary budget officer said the deficit will absolutely be higher because of additional spending. He said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are because they do not exist. He says the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are quotes. Is this why Liberal members on the committee who heard those truth bombs threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the parliamentary budget officer after 166 days?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't recognize that, Mr. Speaker. I don't recognize that characterization. I just appointed the parliamentary budget officer, and this government does have fiscal anchors. This government has fiscal anchors. We are going to spend less so the country can invest more. We are going to balance the operational budget in 3 years. We are going to have a declining level of debt, and we're going to do all of that because we're building the strongest economy in the G7 for Canadian families.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And the Prime Minister made the appointment of the Parliamentary Budget Officer temporary so that he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made. You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there is nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator. And this Prime Minister wants to silence the Parliamentary Budget Officer from telling the truth about the fiscal mess that he has created under his watch. So will he, Mr. Speaker, legalize math, make the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, and tell us how big the deficit is?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président, with respect to consultations on making the Parliamentary Budget Officer's position permanent, I look forward to speaking to the Leader of the Opposition, le chef du Bloc Québécois, the leaders of other parties in Parliament, so we have a consensus on that appointment. I welcome that opportunity. We will do it at this. Yes, because this is the new spirit, Mr. Speaker, the new spirit of collaboration that has been put forward by the Minister.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, voici une occasion de collaboration. On a entendu beaucoup de spéculations au cours des dernières heures concernant la possibilité que le gouvernement dépose cet après-midi ce qui prendra la forme d'un assaut contre la clause dérogatoire de la Constitution, mais on ne sait pas encore vraiment ce que ça contiendra. Il y a par contre un sondage qui établit qu'il y a un très large consensus au Québec autour de la valeur de laïcité de l'État. Est-ce qu'il s'engage à respecter le droit du Québec et des provinces à recourir à la clause dérogatoire, même de façon préventive?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, une des responsabilités les plus importantes du gouvernement du Canada est de défendre la charte des droits et libertés des Canadiens et Canadiennes. C'est le job de la Cour suprême de décider si c'est légal de l'utiliser le clause non-obstant après. Et on verra avec la décision de la Cour.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
La clause dérogatoire est dans la Constitution canadienne de 1982 à laquelle le Québec n'a jamais adhéré. René Lévesque inscrivait la clause dérogatoire dans chacun de ses projets de loi suivant l'adoption de la Constitution, sauf par le Québec. Le premier ministre s'en prend à l'héritage de Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Est-ce qu'il demande aux juges d'être plus sévères encore et plus nuisibles encore au Québec que Pierre Elliott Trudeau?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, pas du tout. C'est pas correct du tout. C'est une décision, un jugement, pardonnez-moi. C'est un jugement de la Cour suprême en ce qui concerne l'utilisation correcte de la clause non-obstant. C'est simple.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, en 43 ans, le Québec, tout gouvernement confondu, n'a jamais adhéré à la Constitution canadienne. Parce qu'elle ne permet pas à ce stade-ci de s'en prendre comme il le voudrait à la langue française et à la valeur québécoise de laïcité de l'État, le gouvernement semble tenter de se cacher derrière la Cour et derrière le gouvernement des juges. Il demande aux juges de changer la Constitution canadienne à sa place. Le premier ministre va-t-il respecter le consensus québécois et s'il veut ouvrir la Constitution, je suis très ouvert.
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, c'est une branche du gouvernement législative. Il y a une autre branche judiciaire. Ce sera une décision pour la Cour suprême, pas pour les députés du Québec ou de la reste du Canada.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
The Prime Minister promised to cap spending, but is now set to double the deficit. Another broken promise, another Liberal bait and switch. Here's what the PBO, Canada's financial watchdog, said about the PM's economic record. Quote, the deficit will absolutely be higher. Quote, I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors. Quote, the labour market sucks. Wages are not going up. My question is this. How high will the deficit go? And what is this government's fiscal guardrail?
Hear, hear. The Honourable, l'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy to see that our Conservative colleagues are so eager to see the great budget we're going to present on the 4th of November. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canadians, indeed. It's going to be a generational investment in the future of this nation, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our country. We're going to protect our communities. We're going to empower Canadians. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're going to build like never before. We're going to build the Canada of the 21st century because you know what, Mr. Speaker? We're the true north, strong and free.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the PBO confirmed the deficit will be higher. Reports indicate it could even push $100 billion. Canadians know that massive Liberal deficits drive inflation. They pay for it at the grocery store as food inflation is 70% above target. And as a result, 25% of households can't afford to put food on the table. Will the Prime Minister admit that having no fiscal anchor and doubling the deficit will only drive inflation higher?
Hear, hear. L'Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the colleague for giving me the opportunity to share good news with this House, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the rate has gone down, Mr. Speaker, 2.5% today. The Bank of Canada just announced, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives should celebrate. Consumers are celebrating. Businesses are celebrating. Canada is celebrating, Mr. Speaker. One thing that it tells to all Canadians, our plan is working. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The PBO, Canada's top budget watchdog, has painted a dismal picture of the Prime Minister's economic record, saying, quote, the labour market sucks and wages are not going up. And it gets worse for this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, with his big plan to split the budget into operating and capital. But the PBO is not fooled by the smoke and mirrors. He said, quote, the bottom line of government will not change. The international public sector standards that everyone uses to measure the deficit and levels of debt will not change. Turns out debt is debt, Mr. Speaker. So can the Prime Minister tell us just how much Liberal debt he's adding to Canada's bottom line? Yeah.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election only 6 months ago, Canadians chose the Liberal government. They chose a Liberal government because they know they need investment. They need investment in the big projects that are going to drive those great jobs all across the country. They need investment in the skills training that helps evolve the next generation of workers. And they need investment in food for kids, in dental care for adults, and in the many ways that our government can support Canadians.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
However, the Liberals want to try and spin their massive deficits, Mr. Speaker, the top financial watchdog in the country says there's only one bottom line, and we'll trust the PBO's word over 10 years of Liberal deficits any day, Mr. Speaker. And with this plan to split the budgets, as if the Prime Minister has forgotten that they're all linked to the same bank account, and there's really only one taxpayer. Right. So with the deficit set to double, let's just call a spade a spade. Will the Prime Minister admit he's really just cooking the books and hoping Canadians don't notice? Right on. Yeah.
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Speaker, good news today. The Bank of Canada has reduced interest rate to 2.5%. This is something that all entrepreneurs, all businesses are taking note, and obviously consumers as well. But But we're focused on jobs, Mr. Speaker, and we heard across the country this summer that we needed to be there for businesses that were trying to pivot and adapt. That's why we put $5 billion on the table to help them. And meanwhile, we're going around the world attracting foreign direct investments because we need to build Canada strong.
Here we go. The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
The Parliamentary Budget Officer, Canada's top financial watchdog, just ripped the Liberal job record, saying, and I quote, "The labour market sucks. Wages aren't going up. 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs since taking office. Youth unemployment is over 14%, and Canada now has the second highest unemployment in the G7. Classic, another Liberal bait and switch. So, Mr. Speaker, I have one simple question. Does the Prime Minister have the guts to admit that his so-called jobs plan has completely failed Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With everything going on in the world, we do understand the pressures that Canadians, particularly young Canadians, are facing. This new government is getting busy with nation-building projects, which will create quality jobs, quality careers, and opportunities, in particular for youth across this country, including things like 18,000 jobs during construction of a new Darlington nuclear project in Ontario, for example. Hundreds of jobs in critical minerals and mining in Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Building the strongest economy in the G7 means more opportunities for youth and for all Canadians across the country. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-Lérable-Lotbinière.
Ce premier ministre libéral avait promis de plafonner les dépenses gouvernementales, mais il est en train de doubler le déficit. Une autre promesse non tenue, une autre tromperie libérale, Monsieur le Président. Hier, le directeur parlementaire du budget a été cinglant sur le bilan des 6 premiers mois de cet autre premier ministre libéral. Le déficit sera absolument plus élevé, a-t-il dit. Je ne sais pas si le gouvernement a actuellement des garde-fous fiscaux, a-t-il dit. Il n'y a aucune clarté, aucune structure, a-t-il dit. Si même le directeur parlementaire indépendant ne le sait pas, est-ce que quelqu'un dans ce gouvernement-là peut nous dire jusqu'où dans le rouge libéral va s'enfoncer le déficit de cet autre premier ministre?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Monsieur le Président, ça fait plaisir de voir que les conservateurs ont hâte au 4 novembre, Monsieur le Président. Nous aussi, on a hâte. Pourquoi? Parce que le 4 novembre, on va présenter un plan d'investissement générationnel pour l'avenir du Canada, Monsieur le Président. On va bâtir, on va construire notre pays, on va protéger nos communautés, Monsieur le Président, et on va bâtir l'économie canadienne. Monsieur le Président, ensemble avec les Canadiens et Canadiennes, on va bâtir l'économie la plus performante du G7, Monsieur le Président. J'ai hâte de voir que les conservateurs votent avec le gouvernement pour bâtir le pays de demain. Vive le Canada, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-Lérable-Lotbinière.
Vous savez ce qu'a dit le directeur parlementaire du budget au propos du 4 novembre? Le directeur parlementaire du budget a confirmé que le déficit sera beaucoup plus élevé. Des rapports indiquent qu'il pourra même atteindre 100 milliards. Les Canadiens savent que des déficits massifs libéraux alimentent l'inflation. Ils en paient le prix à l'épicerie. L'inflation alimentaire est 70 % au-dessus de l'objectif. Au lieu d'intimider le directeur parlementaire du budget en lui répétant sans cesse qu'il est là par intérim puis le nombre de jours qui reste à son mandat, est-ce que le premier ministre va admettre que doubler le déficit sans garde-fou fiscal, ça va aggraver l'inflation et punir les familles?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les Canadiens nous ont envoyé un mandat clair pour augmenter leur pouvoir d'achat et libérer le pouvoir de l'économie canadienne. Augmenter le pouvoir d'achat des Canadiens, c'est une baisse d'impôts pour 22 millions de Canadiens. Augmenter le pouvoir d'achat des jeunes Canadiens, c'est éliminer la TPS sur les nouvelles maisons pour les premiers acheteurs. Libérer le pouvoir de l'économie canadienne, Monsieur le Président, c'est d'unifier l'économie canadienne avec 215 milliards de retombées pour le PIB selon l'Institut économique de Montréal. C'est bâtir des grands projets d'un bout à l'autre du pays. C'est des bonnes jobs pour les Canadiens, pour les jeunes Canadiens, à Contrecœur, en Saskatchewan, en Ontario, partout au pays. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député de Rivière-du-Nord.
Monsieur le Président, la loi canadienne sur les juges est claire. Je cite l'article 3. Peuvent seuls être nommés juges d'une juridiction supérieure d'une province les personnes qui sont des avocats inscrits au barreau d'une province depuis au moins 10 ans. Pourtant, Robert Lecky a été nommé juge à la Cour supérieure du Québec, même s'il n'est membre du barreau du Québec que depuis 7 ans. Ma question au ministre est simple. Est-ce qu'à son avis, Robert Lecky rencontre les critères légaux pour être juge à la Cour supérieure du Québec? Oui ou non?
Oui ou non? Bravo! L'honorable ministre de la Justice.
Monsieur le Président, nous savons qu'il y a une contestation en justice sur la nomination de ce juge à la Cour supérieure de Québec. Le processus canadien de nomination des juges est très solide et indépendant, et nous voulons le garder ainsi. L'indépendance des juges est une base importante de notre démocratie et elle protège l'état de droit. Dire le contraire va contre ces principes, mais nous allons toujours défendre l'indépendance et nos tribunaux. Merci.
L'honorable député de Rivière-du-Nord.
Monsieur le Président, parlons-en de leur système de nomination de juges solide et indépendant. Bien, avec Robert Léquet, le processus vient de faire une nomination qui enfreint la loi canadienne sur les juges. À notre avis, Monsieur le Président, s'il a été nommé, c'est précisément parce que c'est un libéral. Et les libéraux s'attendent à ce qu'il défende des positions libérales sur la laïcité de la langue française à l'intérieur même des tribunaux du Québec. Monsieur le Président, c'est Québec qui devrait sélectionner les juges du Québec. Mais dans l'immédiat, le ministre va-t-il enfin démettre le juge Léquet de ses fonctions?
Honorable ministre de la Justice.
You will appreciate that we have a different perspective. We expect the justice to make decisions independently based on the law. The rule of law in this country is a fundamental pillar of our democracy, with which we may not show compromise. We must insist that we have an independent process based on recommendations by people who can assess the validity of the nominations that come before us. We appoint judges based on their quality and on their merit, not on their partisan affiliation. I hope all members will support the independence of this essential process in a democracy.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' talk is as empty as Canadians' cupboards. It took 40 years before Toronto's largest food bank saw 1 million annual visits. But under this Liberal government, demand has exploded. 2 million, then 3 million, and now 4 million visits from hungry Canadians. The Prime Minister says, "Judge me on food prices." And Canadians are judging him as they stand in the longest food bank lines this country has ever seen. How many more will be forced there when he doubles the deficit?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
One of the best ways to deal with food inflation is to give Canadians real opportunities. And that's what we're doing by building a strong economy, a building economy, Mr. Speaker. We are building big, building bold, and building right now. We're building with major projects. I was pleased to stand with Prime Minister last week in Edmonton, where we announced the first tranche of project through the Major Projects Office. We announced our plan to build homes, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian unionized worker, Mr. Speaker. This will create hundreds of thousands of new jobs, apprenticeship opportunities, training opportunities, real careers. We are optimistic about the future of this country, Mr. Speaker, and I hope the opposition gets on board.
Honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that minister should go to a food bank and tell Canadians lining up there just how good they have it. Well, he pats himself on the back. Food bank workers on the front lines are calling the situation horrific. 1 in 4 households are struggling to afford food. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. And while families go hungry, Liberal spending keeps driving grocery prices even higher. Will this Liberal government keep spending until every single table in this country is empty?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader was spending this summer trying to get his job back, we crisscrossed the country getting feedback from Canadians with respect to what they want to see in this budget. Their message was resoundingly clear. They want us to spend less on government operations and invest more in our economy, in national projects, in nation building. Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7.
We will.
Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
The Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him at the cost at the grocery store. Well, he's failing. Grocery prices are 70% above their own targets. Since the Liberals took office, food inflation has skyrocketed by 40%. Another broken Liberal promise. Families are struggling to keep up. I don't know if these ministers shop for groceries themselves, so let me put this simply. Beef is up 33%. Canned soup up 26%. Potatoes up 16%. Will the Prime Minister admit that doubling their deficit will only make food inflation worse?
The Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives propose cuts. but we're building over on this side, Mr. Speaker, and they should get on board with that. Every time they have a chance to stand with Canadians, whether it's to vote for childcare, whether it's to support food programs, whether it's to make sure that families get what they need to thrive and survive, including, Mr. Speaker, the investment in skilled trades, the investment in unions, the investment in actual Canadian work, Mr. Speaker, they fail because they have no vision. Their vision is to cut, cut, cut.
Wow. Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Families can't eat the word salad served up by that minister, unfortunately. Food inflation is rising, and 1 in 4 families are currently struggling to put food on the table. Meanwhile, Liberal deficits are fueling inflation, driving prices even higher. Liberals are more interested in feeding bureaucracies in Ottawa than tackling the serious problems facing Canadian families that are struggling to put nutritious food on the table and in their kids' lunch boxes. Food banks and school lunch programs are Band-Aids. We need real solutions to the real root cause of the problem, rising food costs. Will the minister cut the deficit so food...
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this government is protecting Canadians, and that includes seniors, their safety, their right to housing, their retirement security. And seniors are living longer. They're living healthier lives than ever, and this government will always support and empower Canadian seniors. They're an important part of this economy, and we are showing action, like cutting red tape and constructing purpose-built housing so seniors can age with dignity in their own communities. We are ensuring that seniors have the funds they need to retire and to be able to afford groceries through programs like Old Age Security.
L'honorable député de Portneuf, Jacques Cartier.
Monsieur le Président, ma question s'adresse au Premier ministre. Depuis 10 ans, sous ce gouvernement libéral, les Canadiens subissent une hausse constante du coût de la vie. Le logement, l'alimentation, l'énergie, entre autres, pèsent énormément sur le portefeuille des familles, des aînés et des jeunes. Dans Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier, comme partout ailleurs au Canada, les citoyens sont découragés et ont une profonde inquiétude sur l'avenir. Qu'est-ce que le premier ministre a à répondre aux familles, aux aînés et à nos jeunes pour alléger ce fardeau et leur donner un peu d'espoir?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Baisser le coût de la vie, augmenter le pouvoir d'achat des Canadiens, c'est le sens de notre engagement, c'est le mandat qui nous a été donné par les Canadiens. C'est pourquoi l'une des premières choses qu'on a fait, ça a été de baisser les impôts pour 22 millions de Canadiens. Ça a été d'éliminer la TPS pour les premiers acheteurs, pour que les jeunes Canadiens aient plus de facilité à accéder à la propriété. Mais, Monsieur le Président, on ne s'arrête pas là. Avec les investissements qu'on fait pour bâtir le Canada, pour créer des bons emplois bien rémunérés, on va pouvoir se permettre d'avoir non seulement l'économie la plus forte du G7, mais aussi de financer des programmes sociaux importants comme l'allocation canadienne pour enfants, comme des investissements en logement qui aident les Canadiens d'un bout à l'autre du pays, y compris dans Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret.
Mr. Speaker, as this government focuses on nation-building projects that will connect our country, trade workers will be in high demand. They need to be able to move freely and have their skills recognized across provinces and territories. If we are going to deliver on building a stronger, more inclusive economy, can the Minister of Jobs and Families update the House on how our government is working to support and improve labour mobility across the country?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Well, Mr. Speaker, great question. And as the Conservatives laugh over there, it's clear that many of them haven't ever met a labourer who actually has barriers to getting across the country to get to good jobs. And in fact, we have worked diligently with provinces and territories to make sure that no matter where the work is, if there's a worker that wants to do it, they can get there and they can take that job. So, Mr. Speaker, they can laugh all they want, but we're doing the hard work over here.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, crime, chaos, and fear are ravaging communities right across Canada after 10 years of Liberals prioritizing soft-on-crime laws. In Saskatchewan, a man out on release after 59 prior convictions murdered 11 people. In Peel Region, half of the suspects in a violent carjacking ring were out on bail. Wow. And in Vancouver, just 40 repeat offenders arrested 6,000 times. Yet this government takes no action. Why are the Liberals clinging to laws that let dangerous criminals back on the streets instead of keeping Canadians safe?
Good question. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the second bill that we introduced in this House was C2, our Stronger Borders measure, which gives police the tools to deal with many issues, including organized crime. The next thing that we are doing is we are going to stiffen bail and make sentencing a lot more strict. We're going to partner with police services across the country to fight organized crime, and we're going to make it tougher for violent offenders to get bail and impose stricter sentences. Mr. Speaker, we are taking action on this front to make sure that Canadians are safe.
Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
We've been listening to that for 5 months. Empty promises, empty words. Last year, 256 people were charged with homicide while on release. That's 256 Canadians who would be alive today if violent criminals were behind bars. And if Conservatives' 3 strikes you're outlaw were in place, these repeat offenders would have been in jail, not destroying families. Nearly 5 months since taking office, this Prime Minister has failed to act. If he truly wants to crack down on violent crime, will he back our common sense Conservative law to keep criminals in jail and to restore safe streets?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Dangerous people who commit serious crimes should not be walking free in our streets if they pose a public safety threat to Canadians. Mr. Speaker, I have good news for my colleague opposite. He will need to...
I couldn't, after the first couple of seconds, I couldn't hear. So would the Minister like to start from the top?
Mr. Speaker, I thank my Conservative colleagues for the applause. I hope they will meet that with their votes when it comes time to support the legislation. We will be advancing this call. And I have good news for my friend opposite, Mr. Speaker. This legislation will include serious reforms to make stricter bail conditions for people who are repeat violent offenders. It will have harsher sentences for those people who would pose risk to the public safety. Mr. Speaker, we will do what we can to strengthen Canada's laws. We will do what we can to bring the provinces along with us. My only hope is that all members of this House will do the right thing and vote for the legislation when it comes forward.
The Honourable Member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, Daniel Senecal raped and choked a 12-year-old boy in my riding. He was sentenced to 18 months but was released 6 months early. While on parole, this monster attacked and sexually abused his next victim, little E, 3-year-old little girl, almost killing her, leaving her fighting for her life before the firefighters arrived on the scene. This failed Liberal justice policies have allowed repeat child sex offenders to be let out early. Will the Liberals introduce changes to the criminal code today and bring home justice for victims like little E?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I sincerely thank my honourable colleague for raising this question on the floor of the House of Commons. And such horrific acts can be met only with condemnation from members of Parliament from both sides of the aisle. As we seek to move forward with legislation, we will be restricting conditional sentence orders when it comes to sexual crimes and sexual crimes against children. We will do what we can to make sure that we work with provinces so they can properly fund their systems as well, to ensure that we work together to keep Canadians safe. My hope is that crime and horrific circumstances such as these will not be used as partisan fodder. I will work with my colleague opposite to advance kind of changes that will keep children safe in this country. Sincerely.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Monsieur le Président, le chef conservateur a annoncé qu'il mettrait fin à la vague de criminalité violente créée par les libéraux en adoptant la loi des 3 coups. Cette loi empêchera les criminels reconnus coupables de 3 infractions graves de bénéficier d'une libération sous caution, d'une probation, d'une libération conditionnelle ou d'une détention à domicile. De plus, elle maintiendra les criminels violents derrière les barreaux plus longtemps afin de les éloigner de leurs victimes et de les éloigner de nos rues. Est-ce que le Premier ministre a besoin de bonnes idées pour combattre le crime? Si oui, est-ce qu'il va adopter la loi du chef de l'opposition?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to good ideas, I can assure my colleague opposite that I have been taking them from law enforcement, from provincial governments, and from stakeholders in the public safety space since the day of my appointment to this position. Mr. Speaker, we will be introducing legislation that will strengthen Canada's bail system, making it harder for violent repeat offenders, for those who commit serious crimes with organized criminal organizations, including auto theft, home invasion. They will have to wait only a matter of weeks before this legislation comes forward. My hope is they will support the common sense measures that will help keep communities safe in every part of this country.
Honorable député de Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Monsieur le Président, on a vécu dans les dernières années la mise en place de la loi C5, celle qui touche au code criminel, qui permet d'avoir des peines à la prison, et la loi C75, qui permet d'avoir des libérations sur caution très facilement. Ces lois-là ont été mises en place par l'ancien ministre de la Justice, David Lametti, qui est actuellement le conseiller du bureau du Premier ministre. Est-ce que le Premier ministre va écouter David Lametti ou il va écouter la bonne raison et écouter les conservateurs?
Très bon, très bon.
L'honorable ministre de la Justice.
Mr. Speaker, this is the second time this week I've received a question about a piece of legislation that the questioner has seemingly not read. Bill C-5, among other things, actually restricts the use of conditional sentencing orders for serious crimes such as attempted murder, such as advocating genocide. Mr. Speaker, we want to continue to put measures in place that will have harsher sentences for violent repeat offenders. We will also advance reforms that are going to help make it harder to get bail for people who pose a public safety threat. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that all members of this House pull the partisan rhetoric out of such a serious issue as public safety and get together to advance reforms that will protect.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would build 500,000 homes a year, doubling housing starts. Instead, housing starts are down 16%, and his $13 billion brand new bureaucracy might someday maybe build a grand total of 4,000 homes. That's 1.6% of what we already built. It's a rounding error. Is this really the government's housing strategy, to hope that Canadians don't know basic math?
Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives seem a little confused, so let me help here. First, the projects that we announced were just the start.
Good idea.
Second, they can support up to 45,000 new affordable homes. Third, we have many, many more projects on the way. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time the Conservatives have gotten the numbers wrong, so I'd like to invite them to take a moment, rework their talking points, and we have no intention of slowing down. It's time to build.
Hear, hear, hear. The honourable member for Thornhill.
Only in Liberal land do you solve for the housing crisis by blowing $13 billion on a fourth bureaucracy after the first three already failed. Those numbers are right. And who's leading this master plan? The former mayor of Vancouver. He doubled rents and jacked up home prices by 150%. And just to make the circus more complete, he handed a key role to his buddy from Toronto, the same one who slapped a 700% hike on development charges and oversaw home prices double when she was there. Is this really the definition of success for that minister?
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, once again, we hear the Conservatives trashing local officials, government.
That's right. Unbelievable. Well, the mayor of Montreal, the mayor of Quebec.
They're talking about mayors, they're talking about councillors, they're talking about public servants, rather than looking at themselves. And many of us who have served at the local level have dealt with Conservative governments who did nothing for affordable housing, who did nothing to improve affordability for Canadians. We're taking action and working with our partners at the local level.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to double housing starts, but they're down 16%. Is no surprise when you see who's in charge. The housing minister oversaw a 150% surge in home prices and doubled rents in Vancouver, while the new $13 billion housing czar helped hike Toronto home building taxes by 700%. When will the Prime Minister admit that all he's doubling are gatekeepers and deficits?
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll just remind the members opposite, We are focused on building affordable housing at a scale never seen before, certainly not by conservative governments who vacated the field on affordable housing for their decade in power. That set us back enormously. We are now building back, and we are looking forward. We're going to employ Canadians in building affordable housing at a scale that is unprecedented. We expect the members opposite to support our work. Thank you.
Le député de Montmorency-Charlevoix. Monsieur le Président, dans Montmorency-Charlevoix, la crise du logement est bien réelle. On n'est pas les seuls. Partout au Québec, les familles étouffent. Une récente étude a démontré que les familles dépensent maintenant plus de 30 % de leurs revenus pour se loger. Pour des familles à faible revenu, on atteint même 70 %. L'impact direct de cette perte, c'est 4,2 milliards de pertes de dollars pour l'économie québécoise. Le premier ministre avait promis de doubler les chantiers. Ils ont chuté de 16 %. C'est pas étonnant avec toute la bureaucratie et les limites administratives que les entrepreneurs font face. Est-ce que le premier ministre va stopper la bureaucratie et commencer à bâtir des logements?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Il est vrai que la crise du logement frappe particulièrement les jeunes Canadiens. C'est pourquoi, non seulement on a éliminé la TPS pour les premières maisons, mais on a annoncé avec mon collègue, le ministre du Logement et de l'Infrastructure, Maison Canada, avec un investissement initial de 13 milliards pour avoir un effet de levier immense pour bâtir des milliers de logements abordables à travers le pays. Et je noterai au passage, Monsieur le Président, que quand le chef de mon collègue était ministre, il a présidé à la construction de seulement 6 logements. On parle d'une magnitude significativement plus. Je dirais que mon collègue ici à côté de mes logements is off to a good start. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député de Rivière-des-Mille-Îles.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les résidents de ma circonscription ont communiqué avec moi et mon équipe pour exprimer leur frustration face au retard qu'ils subissent lorsqu'ils tentent de contacter l'Agence du revenu du Canada. Nous savons que les employés dévoués de l'ARC fournissent des services inestimables aux Canadiens, mais la réalité est claire. La demande a considérablement augmenté ces dernières années et le système doit être amélioré. Le ministre des Finances et du Revenu national pourrait-il informer la Chambre des mesures prises par le gouvernement pour améliorer la prestation des services à l'ARC?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Monsieur le Président, je veux d'abord remercier ma collègue pour son excellente question. Le niveau de service offert par l'Agence du revenu du Canada est inacceptable. C'est pour ça, Monsieur le Président, que j'ai demandé à l'Agence du revenu du Canada de présenter un plan de 100 jours pour améliorer les services dont les Canadiens sont en droit de s'attendre, Monsieur le Président. J'en profite ici en Chambre pour remercier tous les agents de l'Agence pour leur travail. Nous allons leur fournir la technologie, les processus et l'encadrement pour offrir le meilleur niveau de service que les citoyens canadiens sont en droit de s'attendre. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the question's to the Immigration Minister. New housing completions are at record lows, but the Liberals are welcoming unprecedented numbers of people under every immigration stream. On top of this, there are potentially millions of people who have expiring visas, and the Liberals don't even know if they will leave. Why is the Immigration Minister letting in people faster than they're building homes to house people who are already here in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Nos mesures fonctionnent, oui, des fonctions. Au premier trimestre de 2025, le Canada a connu la plus faible croissance démographique hors pandémie depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Nous poursuivons la mise en œuvre de notre plan sur le niveau d'immigration, un plan qui réduit notre population de résidents temporaires de centaines de milliers et notre cible de résidents permanents de plus de 20%. Notre objectif sont clairs, rendre notre système viable et attirer le meilleur talent. Merci.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
So the minister claims, she just claimed that there's no problem, that everything's okay. So she's spreading misinformation because the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report says that the Liberals' current immigration plan, the one that she just said is working, leaves a massive housing gap because the minister is still setting levels way too high. If Canada's to be a place where everyone can succeed, we need to ensure that everybody has a place to live and call home. So why is the minister spreading misinformation while still welcoming unsustainable numbers of people to Canada when Canada's in the middle of a housing crisis?
Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, let me repeat it in English so she and other members understand from her party. Our measures are working. In the first quarter of 2025, Canada recorded the smallest non-pandemic population gain since government started to keep records, 1946. We're following through on our immigration plan, and that is reducing our temporary resident number and our permanent resident number by 20%. Our plan is clear to bring sustainability to our system, attract best talent. Our student and temporary worker admissions are down by 50%. Asylum claims are down by a third, and rates have come down to 11%.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, we have a serious situation here. The Liberals have welcomed unsustainable levels of international students to Canada every year, but didn't think about where they would live. Things are so bad that this year a CBC investigation uncovered extreme abuse by landlords, in some cases offering free or discounted rent in exchange for sexual services. This isn't fair to anyone. The Liberals broke the immigration system. When will the abuse end?
Good job. The Honourable Minister of Citizenship, Refugees and Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that important question. Canadians gave our government a mandate just a few months ago, and that is to return the international student program to sustainable levels, and we are doing exactly that. Almost 90,000 less students arrived in 2025 between January and June 2025 compared to the same year in 2024. And the latest numbers show 100,000 less study permit holders in Canada compared to the end of 2024. So we want to attract the best and the brightest talents to Canada. We will do that, but also we will protect the students that are here.
The honourable member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, our government will win the trade war thrust upon us.
By making Canada an energy superpower, diversifying our exports, and building the strongest economy in the G7, all while working with First Nations rights holders. Selling our resources responsibly will generate revenues needed to deliver the programs Canadians rely on, while helping our allies shift away from higher emissions fuel sources and taking cards away from autocrats and giving them back to Canadians. It's a win-win. Can the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources share an update with the House about Canada's work to achieve these objectives?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
I'd like to thank the member for that question. Good news, everyone. This week, we're putting one project, one review into action. This week, British Columbia and the federal government jointly approved the new Silesums LNG export terminal, led by the Nisga'a Nation, with a First Nations-owned pipeline.
Look at them,
attached.
taking accolades for something
The second largest project in the history of the country.
that this new government didn't even start.
Cedar LNG, wood fiber LNG, Silicon LNG. We are building the strongest economy.
All these green scam LNG.
L'honorable député de Kapuskasing, Timmins, Muskego.
Mr. Speaker, for more than 45 years, communities in Northern Ontario have endured devastating impact of U.S. tariffs on our forestry sector. In Kapuskasing, cap paper is a vital link for 5 sawmills, and if that link breaks, more will be challenged. That's thousands of jobs on the line, Mr. Speaker. While the federal government has committed to over $1.2 billion to support this industry, they have failed to follow through. When will they help the workers at Kapuskasing?
They're not. They're not going to help you because it's a conservative riding, and it's up north, and there's too few people there.
Speaker, I grew up in a logging town. I know exactly what the softwood lumber industry is going through. We allocated $1.2 billion in 3 different programs to the softwood lumber industry. We are helping retool the industry, rebuild the industry for the reality that is going on in the economy today. We will make this industry strong again.
Okay, you allocated the money, but they're saying they didn't get the money.
Sur la colline, depuis lundi, des citoyens et citoyennes lisent le nom des 18 000 enfants de Gaza tués dans le génocide qui se déroule sous nos yeux. Des enfants parfois tués par un sniper alors qu'ils allaient chercher de la nourriture. Ils n'auront pas assez de toute la
Canadians are starving. And what does the NDP bring up? Gaza.
Il faut cesser la vente d'armes au régime Netanyahou.
So whoever the constituents are of this MP, he doesn't care about you. He's more interested about people living in another landmass, on another continent. He doesn't give a crap about you, Canada. He cares more about non-Canadians. I wonder what his constituents think about that.
Monsieur le Président, la situation à laquelle sont confrontés les Palestiniens est intolérable. Cette question est devant la Cour et nous
This
suivons
is the
de près
former,
l'évolution
I don't even
de la
care if you don't hear
situation.
what she says. This is the former Minister of National Defense that coerced Canadian Armed Forces member into an experimental messenger RNA gene therapy rebranded as a vaccine. And when Canadian Armed Forces members became injured or died, they and their families were denied duty of care, as has been the law until they changed it, and then didn't even bother to tell the members that if they got vaccine injured when they lose their job, that they would have to go to the Vaccine Injury Support Program, the FAIL program, instead of Veterans Affairs to get help. She did that. She abandoned them. She destroyed 10% of the Canadian Armed Forces.
9 p.m. pursuant to order made on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, I invite all honorable members. Sorry, point of order? Un rappel au règlement? Et un rappel au règlement, le député de Berthier-Masquinongé.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. En réponse à une députée conservatrice, la ministre de l'Immigration a répondu, je vais répondre en anglais pour être sûr qu'elle me comprenne. Je voudrais juste rappeler à la Chambre et peut-être à la ministre aussi que dans la Chambre, nous pouvons parler dans la langue officielle de notre choix et que ça, c'était peut-être aussi sous-estimer la très grande qualité du travail de nos interprètes, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais bien que ces propos-là soient retirés. Merci.
Bravo. You want to withdraw them? No? C'est bien noté, effectivement. Mais oui, l'honorable député de Drummond.
Monsieur le Président, je vois que vous alliez passer au point suivant, mais la demande de mon collègue de Berthier-Masquinongé était que la ministre retire ses paroles. Merci.
Bravo. Ben ouais.
Du gouvernement à la Chambre.
Monsieur le Président, je ne vois aucune raison pour laquelle la ministre offrirait des excuses. Clairement, elle a cité des chiffres que le député en face n'avait pas compris, donc elle les a répétés.
L'honorable député de Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, you know, we're at a time where I think that we need to bring some decorum to this place. And what the minister said, no, in all seriousness, what the minister said undermined the seriousness of the debate. It made light, and to my Bloc colleague's point, she didn't do her job as a minister there. So I'd like an apology too.
L'honorable député de Mirabel.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai compris de la collègue précédente qu'elle voulait des excuses. Le collègue de Berthier-Masquinongé n'a pas demandé d'excuses. Elle a demandé tout simplement que la ministre rectifie ses propos. Ce sont des propos indignes de la fonction d'une ministre, indignes envers le statut de la langue française comme langue officielle en cette Chambre. Et je pense que dans l'esprit de collaboration qui est censé être celui des libéraux, elle devrait retirer simplement ses paroles.
Bravo! Je comprends que c'est une question de respect et de décorum, mais à mon sens, c'est une expression idiomatique, si on peut dire. Alors, je m'arrête là-dessus et on va continuer. It being 3:12. Oui, monsieur le député de Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier.
Monsieur le Président, c'est important de valoriser les deux langues officielles qui, pour tous, sauf les libéraux, c'est le français et l'anglais. Monsieur le Président, je pense que la requête de mon collègue du Bloc québécois est très légitime, le français et l'anglais. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Excellent.
Great. Now he's got a bit of a sidebar. He's going to decide.
Aimerait répondre? Non. OK. Alors, on va continuer. continuer. Nous avons des hommages à rendre. Comme j'ai dit il y a quelques minutes.
So the Liberal MP working as the Speaker has denied the points of order. Actually, he didn't deny them. He just ignored them. Then he asked the minister if she'd like to respond, and she said no.
Comme il est 15h13, conformément à l'ordre adopté le mardi 16 septembre 2025, j'invite les honorables députés à se lever pour observer